Everything in the world is historic, everything is a story, but every building should not be elevated by the state and given the honor of historic designation. A vacant, obsolete building is not historic, and it should not be found to be eligible for the National Registry. The nomination of 80 Willow is not an objective report. It's biased. It's been commissioned and paid for by anti-housing activists. The nomination makes 3 claims. They claim the landscape is historic, they claim the structure is historic, and they claim that Sunset Magazine is historic. First claim, the landscaping. Remember, the nominator claimed that all aspects of the historic site are intact, and they retain their historic landscape and architectural integrity. It's a flat-out lie. This is the street frontage of the building. Does anyone here believe that this is an original Thomas Church historic landscape? Anyone? It's not, right? This is modern, drought-resistant landscaping. The landscaping for the entire building has been removed. The landscape architect for the project has compared the original plans against the existing site conditions. There's none of the original landscaping left. But when you read the nomination, it says everything's intact. It's all original. It's all fabrication. So let's go through the images that the nominators presented. The image on the upper left is the exterior of the building, which we've already demonstrated is completely remodeled. The second image is of this tree, which doesn't exist anymore. The third image is of so-called climate zones, which, as you'll see from the landscape architect's letter, do not exist anymore. The glazing has been replaced. We'll see the modern storefront momentarily. Here's a picture of another tree, which doesn't exist, and all the landscape has been totally remodeled. Here's an image of a courtyard that does not exist. We'll see a new picture of that courtyard in a minute. There's an image of the interior that does not exist. All the interior has been totally demolished, white boxed, and remodeled. Again, the interior's been totally removed and remodeled. You get the idea. All the pictures that the nominator showed don't exist anymore. But remember, this site retains all of its integrity. It's all original, except for every single picture that they showed. We're going to see now one of the historic landscape courtyards. Cliff May was a well-known house designer. He was not a famous office designer. Cliff May was not the architect for 80 Willow Road. Higgins and Root were the architects for 80 Willow Road. But the nominator doesn't discuss this. Cliff May even acknowledged this in his own letters to Higgins and Root. 80 Willow Road is not an architectural masterpiece. It's not a great civil building. It's an empty, obsolete office building. We are trying to rent it at the moment, but we haven't been able to rent it. The building's been vacant for the best part of 10 years. The building is functionally obsolete. You cannot make tenants go into an office building that don't want to go into an office building. Tenants do not want ranch-style office buildings. If tenants wanted ranch-style office buildings, the whole state would be covered in ranch-style office buildings. It does not exist. It's not a thing. It's not something that's wanted by the market. The building's been substantially modified. There's been many extensions made. The nominator claims that all these extensions were somehow part of like a historic grand master plan. That's a total fabrication. There's no evidence to it. There's been bits scabbed onto the building here, there, and everywhere. We're going to see now the building that's totally intact. There's been no modifications made. If anyone thinks this is an original building, it's not. The building has a wood roof, which is degrading in front of our eyes. It's going to need to be replaced. After the LA wildfires, it's impossible to get insurance for a building that has a wood roof. So whenever this roof needs to be replaced, it's going to be gone. So the roof is gone, the storefront's replaced, the interior is gutted. There's been extensions scabbed on all over the place. This building does not retain its so-called historic architectural integrity. The root of this nomination is about trying to block low-income housing. We're seeing the same people show up here that show up to block it at other locations currently in Menlo Park. California has a long history of wealthy landowners using legal and political tools to block affordable housing. It reflects a combination of racial segregation, economic exclusion, and entrenched local control. The key tools, racial covenants, redlining, exclusionary zoning, and modern NIMBYism, they've evolved over time, but the same function is keeping low-income people out of wealthy neighborhoods. Sunset presented itself as the magazine for Western living, ideal Western living. I went through 10 years of the magazine. This is the only picture of a black person from 1951 to 1961. I hope people look at this and they should feel uncomfortable. It's Western living, but it's white Western living. Like, we're within walking distance of East Palo Alto, and there's not a single black or Chinese person in 10 years of the magazine. They idealize this suburban living and this white flight and completely excluded people of color. I expect there to be a parade of landowners commenting about how we're for affordable housing, just not here, just not there, just not there, just not anywhere in our community. But it's fine over in East Palo Alto or other places. The same landowner showed up to try and block teacher housing last month in Menlo Park. The same landowner showed up to try and block low-income housing downtown in car parks. As I've shown today, the nomination is biased. This is not an objective nomination. It's paid for by anti-housing activists, intentionally misrepresented the conditions of the building. That's obvious. Every picture they showed does not exist now. Staff mentioned that the magazine promoted the California dream. Segregated suburbs were not the California dream, no matter how Sunset Magazine wants to portray it. Sunset Magazine left this building. The building did not leave Sunset. Sunset was in the building and they vacated it because it was not fit for their purpose, just like it's not fit for the purpose of other tenants in the market. Commissioner Hess spoke eloquently earlier about how minorities and people of color were often omitted from historic nominations. This is this board's chance not to ignore those communities. There'll be over 300 low-income residents living in this building. If the board chooses to elevate an obsolete building, which Sunset left, to the status of historic eligibility, the board will be saying the long vacant, obsolete office building is more important than the homes of hundreds of low-income future residents. Those hundreds of residents can't be here today. They're at their jobs, they're trying to survive. Thank you for your consideration. I urge you to reject this deeply flawed nomination.